Hello and welcome to this episode of Hospitality Talks. I'm Katy Moses, founder and MD of CAM, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dan Ianson, who is the commercial director of Everleaf. Dan, please will you introduce yourself in a more detailed way than I just did?
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. Great honor to join you. I love all the work that you guys do of bringing some more data and some more insight to what can often be an area where it's more based on intuition than data. So yeah, loving the CAM work. I'm Dan Ianson. I'm the commercial director at Everleaf. I have been for 4 years, in which time the brand has 10x'd, which is great to see. We are a company that's all about nature, so we make non-alcoholic aperitifs from the world's most wonderful plants.
Fantastic. And I've had the pleasure of trying quite a few of your drinks and I've always been very impressed. Low and no, obviously, is a category that has exploded over the last 10 years. I think it's fair to say the last 5 years have seen exponential growth in the category overall. We've recently conducted some research with you where we audited pubs and bars to look at where low and no sits. Tell us a little bit about that research and what is the surprising thing that came out of that for you?
Yeah. So first of all, the reason we commissioned this research with CAM was to try and understand how much more there is to go at.
Yeah.
So, it's easy to live in a bubble of central London accounts and think that non-alc is everywhere. But the reality is that non-alc as a volume play is still under 1% of the total of bev alc. So it's still a small category. It's growing really, really fast. And so what we wanted to deep dive into is how does it show up on menu? How is it described? Can you see it when you walk into a venue? Because I think there's an idea that consumers will ask for stuff if they can't see it. But the point I always make to operators is I just ask them the question, like, how many times has someone walked into your venue and ordered some food which isn't on your food menu? And they're like, well, no one would do that. And I'm like, well, why would they do that at the bar? Like, it's no different. You've got to make it easy for people to see, to understand, to order, and attractive, all of those kind of things. So it's about setting a baseline, and hopefully this is a piece of research that will repeat kind of year on year
Mhm.
to understand where we are and where the possibility to improve is.
And I think that's incredibly important. Like you very kindly said at the beginning about sort of we've traditionally in the on trade there has been a lot of decisions made on gut feel rather than fact and insight. And actually, that's something that Cam was very determined. When I started the business 11 years ago, that was kind of my aim, was to make sure that people were actually armed with the facts to make decisions. And we know from the Camlo and No report that people are moderating, people are drinking less. I think that the figure I last saw was that 56% of people said that they wanted to reduce their alcohol intake as part of that report that we run every year. And in fact, we'll be releasing again in June. So, what improvements have we seen to provide a better experience for those people who are moderating or reducing their alcohol intake? What has Low and No done for those people?
So I guess the first thing we should celebrate is that from the research, which covered, I've got the number here, so it covered 3,832 bars. 98% of those bars had something non-alcoholic in them. So like it's great. Like that is a really, really good
Okay.
start. That is led by beer, with then spirits second and wine last. And I guess it's like just don't make it hard for people. I think if you have got that huge number of people looking to moderate, there still is a little bit of peer pressure when you're standing at the bar of what you're going to order. And it's even if I went into a bar thinking I want to moderate today, it doesn't take that much to put me off. Um, in terms of not being able to see anything, or do I have to ask a question, or is it awkward, or what are my friends drinking? If it's like Lucky Saint tap on the bar or Everleaf bottle on the back bar or a really nice menu with some incredible flavors called out,
Mhm.
just makes it so much easier and so much more of a positive choice rather than, oh, can I have, something
Yeah.
non-alc, or are you sure you want something non-alc?
And is visibility still a problem? Because I know that from our research,
100%.
Right, okay. Because I think that sometimes when we speak to operators, they don't realize how much that can be a barrier to people coming. I mean, I know that from our research, I think it was 18% of people said that if they could see, if we could increase the effectiveness and the visibility of alcohol free, they would visit more often. So
Yeah,
it actually could be a footfall driver, right?
definitely. I mean, I before Everleaf, I worked for Pernod Ricard, and one of the things that always stuck with me is you've got to try and offer operators three things. So more people through the door,
Yep.
staying for longer, and spending more money. If you can get all three of those, then you're a great partner to the on trade. We know that people will choose the outlet they're going to if they're looking for a good non-alc experience, and they'll look at what's online. So actually the journey starts even before you go into the bar. What's on the website? Is there an obvious menu? I've been talking to Google recently to try and persuade Google to put it on Google Maps that a venue has
Oh,
non-alc cocktails, because I don't know, if you search a venue on Google Maps, you'll see whether it has, is it dog friendly? Is it wheelchair friendly? Do they offer vegetarian food? Do they offer vegan food?
yeah.
All of these things are like available as options, but non-alc drinks isn't available currently as a choice. So that's a campaign that's going on the side. More
Okay, and
news
of
on
course,
that hopefully soon.
that's incredibly important as well. And it's funny you should just mention the sort of vegetarians and vegans, because we know that even if there's a group of 10 people, but there's only one vegan, the vegan person is the influencer as to where they go. They might not be the one that's choosing it, but certainly they're the one that people are thinking about. And it's the same with non-alcoholic drinkers. So if there is somebody that is teetotal within the group or that is moderating, that's the influencer. That's the person that we've got to impress. So it's not, I think sometimes I do have to sort of explain to some of our operators, it's not necessarily about that one person. It's about all those people that come with that one person, and then the word of mouth that comes from that. So it's bigger than the sum of its parts, I guess, is what I'm trying to.
Agree. Yeah. And we know that through experience. We know with operators that we work with who have a good range, they've seen great sales across their whole category. And we also know that we are talking about people who are teetotal here, but also talking about people who moderate. We know that non-alc drinkers are in general more valuable consumers. They tend to have a higher average spend. They're more into flavor. Like they're generally more kind of epicurious. They're more interested in new stuff. So they're good consumers to have in your sites, and hopefully they'll bring all of their mates with them, as you say.
And I mean, I think that we're past the point now where, I remember 5, 6, 7 years ago having to kind of prove that you needed a decent non-alcohol experience. I think that we get that now. I think the industry is aware of the fact that you don't, 1 in 4 people just default to tap water if they're not having alcohol. And that's not a good experience for the customer or for our tills. So, I think we're past the point of that. But what are the key challenges that we still have within alcohol free as a category?
I I think one of the key challenges is pe people knowing how to drink it. So I was in Devon and Cornwall recently and going around a few pubs, and they had like a reasonable non-alc selection on the bar, but they had no kind of guidance as to how to drink it. And that's okay if you're using an analog spirit, so something that's like a one for one. So, Gordon's or Gordon Zero, Tanqueray or Tanqueray Zero,
Got it.
it's a gin, it goes in the gin and tonic. But Everleaf, we've never looked to like tread that path. We sit
Right.
in the same space as an aperitif, but we're kind of making it slightly harder for ourselves, which is fine. Who knows what a forest tastes like? Well, a forest tastes like whatever you want it to taste like. It's different to every person. But
Mm,
we know that on menus, we have to call out flavors, and we
yeah.
have to give people serves they recognize. So one of our best-selling serves for Forest after the spritz is a mojito. So people know they like mojitos. Everleaf Forest and a mojito is delicious, and we
Yeah.
know that sells really well. So we know that we've got to make it easy. So we'll probably use one of the plants that we use within Forest. We might call it a saffron mojito or an orange blossom mojito, and that kind of those connections start to make people think, I know what a mojito is. I'm keen on having a non-alc. That sounds delicious, and I'll go for it.
Yeah.
And we know that if you just put the bottles on the back bar, or if you just write virgin mojito, it's so reductive as a menu call. Who wants to have a virgin mojito
Yeah.
versus like an orange blossom and saffron mojito? The
Yeah.
difference in sales is day and night.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, better for the customer experience. So you've been in Devon and Cornwall. I've done quite a bit of traveling over the last sort of year or so to the States, where I'm surprised they don't seem to be as ahead as we are with some of the sort of low and no category. Who is doing it well? Where have you been, or who have you seen, or what style of outlet is doing it well?
I think it's important to recognize that the UK has got the most sophisticated non-alc
Yeah.
on-trade offer of
I know.
anywhere in the
I
world.
was so surprised when I went over to I went to the States 3 times.
Yeah,
Yeah, and each time I was expecting to see more, and I just didn't.
it's great. I mean, the US, we are in the US and it's growing really well as a market for us, but they
Good.
are behind. We also distribute in France, Italy, Iceland, Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, loads of countries. And the the speed that the category is being adopted changes from market to market. But I think it's absolutely realistic. So the UK is a long way ahead. And we see that across all tiers of the trade. So we see that right from our, what we describe as our ones, our Tyrone Elementary or the Artesian, offering very elevated, beautiful non-alc serves, which are super creative, and really using the product with the same love, care, attention as they would with any other spirit. I think as you go down in more into the mainstream, that's the really exciting bit to me. Is like how do you deal with an account like Miller and Carter, who've got 125 sites across the UK. What are the drinks you give them that they can execute at scale across 125 sites and do really, really well? So I get as excited about bigger accounts in terms of number of sites as I do going into the Ritz and having an incredible Everleaf cocktail. So both bits exciting. Definitely more excited about the big number of outlets at the moment.
Yeah, excellent. And just finally, then, what is next for Everleaf? What are you working on at the moment?
Just more of the same. I think when you are in a startup or a scale up, there's always a tendency to want to change your plan every year. And our plan's always been the same, like make delicious drinks, which consumers and bartenders love. Bartenders love working with it, consumers love drinking it. Um, there's still so much to go at. I think we're very guilty in the non-alc space of thinking that we're everywhere and the job's done and it's a massive category. It's not. It's absolutely tiny. It's growing really fast and the potential is huge. But let's just keep the boat on the same course. Let's not try and go everywhere. Let's just make really tasty, delicious drinks that are simple to make and incredible to enjoy. That's my goal.
Well, I hope that you continue to reach that goal. Dan, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful speaking to you and talking all things low and no. And I will see you on the 24th of June at the CAM Low and No Research Launch event. So every year we launch this report, as you're well aware. So I will catch you then to maybe try a little bit more of Everleaf, maybe one of the flavors I haven't tried yet.
Sounds great. It's definitely the piece of research I use most in the year. So if you haven't booked tickets for it, definitely get those booked because it's very much worth a visit.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Dan. Take care.
See you there.